Blinded by greed and burning with jealousy, Neka sent her only daughter to a river at midnight to fetch a mystery box of riches. But what returned was not fortune. It was a curse that turned their home into a house of horrors, and only silence was left behind. Once upon a time in Otago village, there lived a very beautiful girl named Adanna. Her skin glowed like the morning sun, and her eyes sparkled like the stars. Everyone in the village loved Adanna, not just because she was pretty, but because she had a heart as soft as a baby's smile. Adanna was kind to everyone. She always greeted elders with respect and helped old women sweep their compounds or carry water from the stream. Whenever she had time, she would run off to assist someone, smiling as she worked. She was the only child of a well-known woman in Otago village, a wrapper seller named Oluchi. People called her Mama Wrapper, because her wrapper prints were so beautiful, colorful, and different from anything else in the whole region. People from faraway villages would travel to Otago just to buy wrappers from Oluchi. Oluchi was also kind, just like her daughter. She was soft-spoken and graceful. Her smile could melt anger. She wasn't rich, but she wasn't poor either. She and Adanna lived a comfortable life in a small, cozy house near the village square. Adanna loved her mother very much. She would help her fold wrappers, arrange them in neat piles, and carry some on her head to the market. Sometimes she would go with her all the way to the big textile market in the north when they needed to buy more wrappers. It was always an exciting trip. Long, dusty roads, noisy market sounds, and big bundles of colorful fabrics everywhere. Adanna loved touching the shiny, soft materials and listening to the way traders shouted prices. Every day in the market, Adanna stood proudly by her mother's side. She helped customers find their favorite colors and sort through piles of wrappers. When someone bought many wrappers, Adanna would carefully carry them on her head to the motor park. Some customers loved her so much that they gave her little coins as gifts. "Thank you, my dear," they would say. "You're so helpful, so sweet. Where is your mother keeping you? I want to adopt you." They would laugh and pat her head while Oluchi smiled proudly. And any time Adanna wasn't at the market, people noticed. "This one that Adanna didn't come to market today. Who will help me sort my wrappers and carry them to the motor park?" the women would ask jokingly. "I miss her. That girl is always so helpful," another would say. Her mother would laugh and reply, "Ah, she's at home helping me soak the wrappers. Don't worry, she'll be here tomorrow." When they got home from the market, Adanna and her mother always cooked together. Their tiny kitchen would be filled with the sweet smell of jollof rice, fried plantain, or spicy pepper soup. As the food bubbled in the pot, they would laugh and talk like best friends. After dinner, Adanna would lay her head on her mother's lap while Oluchi told her folktales. Her voice was gentle, and her stories were filled with animals that talked, clever tortoises, and brave girls like Adanna herself. The stories made Adanna's eyes grow wide with wonder. She always listened quietly until she drifted off to sleep. Even though Oluchi pampered Adanna with love, Adanna never became proud or rude. She always shared her snacks with other children, helped people in need, and respected everyone, whether they were rich or poor. Her heart was full of light, and her spirit was like a soft breeze, quiet, gentle, but felt by everyone. Christmas season was always a joyful time for Adanna and her mother. That was when they made the most sales in the market. People from many villages came to buy wrappers for weddings, parties, and other big celebrations. Their shop would be full of customers talking and laughing, pointing at wrappers, choosing colors, and buying in large bundles. Oluchi would be so busy that she sometimes forgot to eat. Adanna too. But they were happy. The market was full of sounds. Shouting sellers, laughing buyers, drums from performers, and sweet smells from food sellers frying puff-puff and roasting corn. Everything felt warm and alive. Because so many people wanted wrappers, Oluchi had to restock her shop twice, sometimes even 3 times. She didn't want anyone to go back home without getting what they wanted. Sometimes she would borrow money from the bank in the city just to buy more wrappers, and she promised to pay back after the season. One Saturday morning, Oluchi and Adanna returned from the big textile market in the north. They had traveled far, and their bags were full of fresh, beautiful wrapper prints. Their faces were dusty and tired, but they smiled because they knew their customers would be happy. As soon as they arrived at the shop, they saw a long line of women waiting. "Ihen! Finally, Mama Wrapper is here!" one woman shouted happily. Another woman clapped and said, "Adanna, my darling! I want those bright green wrappers, do you still have them?" Adanna smiled and quickly opened the bundles. Wrappers of all colors, yellow like the sun, red like hibiscus, blue like the sky, shimmered in the light. Everyone wanted one. They sold wrappers all day. Adanna didn't even sit down once. Her legs ached, her back hurt, but she kept smiling. When it was finally evening and the market bell rang, they packed up and locked their shop. That night at home, Oluchi was very tired. Her hands shook a little while she stirred the pot of soup. But she didn't complain. She served dinner, and they ate together in silence. After eating, they both went to bed, ready to sell again the next day. Then, just before the sky turned bright, at the very first crow of the rooster, something terrible happened. "People come, oh! The market is on fire!" Someone screamed from the street. Another voice shouted, "Fire! Fire! Everything is burning!" The air was filled with shouting and running footsteps. The noise was loud and scary. Oluchi jumped up from sleep, her heart racing. "Adanna! Wake up!" she cried. "The market! Something is wrong!" They both ran outside, their wrappers flapping in the wind. The sky was still dark, but they could see smoke rising high, thick and black. It danced like an angry monster in the sky. They ran with the crowd, barefoot, hearts pounding. When they got to the market, Oluchi screamed. Their shop was burning. The flames were tall, orange and hot. Crackling sounds filled the air. Wooden wrappers burned and turned into black ash. Adanna stood frozen, her mouth open. Her chest felt tight. "Mama! Our shop!" she cried. Oluchi ran forward, but the heat pushed her back. "No!" she shouted. "I just restocked. I borrowed money from the bank. How will I pay? Where will I start from?" She cried and pulled at her hair. She looked at the fire with wide, hopeless eyes, and then she fell. "Mama!" Adanna screamed, rushing to her. "Mama, wake up!" People gathered. "Call the nurse!" someone shouted. "She has fainted." They carried Oluchi to the hospital. Her body was weak, her face pale. She didn't open her eyes for a long time. Adanna sat by her mother's bed, not sleeping, not eating. She held her mother's hand and whispered, "Please wake up. Please, Mama. Need you. Don't leave me." She wiped her tears and stayed strong, though her heart felt like it was breaking into tiny pieces. She remembered the wrappers. She remembered the fire. She remembered how her mother screamed. Days passed slowly. On the third day, the sun was soft in the sky, shining through the hospital window. Oluchi opened her eyes. Her voice was quiet. She turned and looked at her daughter. "Adanna," she whispered. Adanna quickly came close. "Yes, Mama, I'm here. I'm here." Oluchi smiled weakly. She held Adanna's hand and said, "You are my joy, my light. May good things follow you all your life. May your hands never lack. May your feet always find peace." Adanna's eyes filled with tears. "Mama, please don't leave me," she begged. But Oluchi closed her eyes, and her hand went still. Adanna wailed. Her cries echoed in the hospital walls. She hugged her mother tightly, shaking her head. "No, no, no, Mama, please." The nurses came. The neighbors came. Everyone cried. Back in the village, Oluchi was buried in a quiet corner, under a tree near their home. Adanna knelt by her grave, her dress covered in dust, her hands holding a small wrapper her mother once gave her. She cried and cried and cried. The villagers felt sorry for her. Some brought her yam and beans. Some gave her small money. But nothing they gave could fill the hole in her heart. Her mother, her best friend, her everything was gone. Some months after Adanna buried her mother, life became very hard. Everything changed. There was no more shop. No more rappers. No more market laughter. No more folktales at night. The house became quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that made her heart hurt. Food became a big problem. Sometimes Adanna would drink only water and sleep. Other times she would eat just boiled yam with no oil or sauce. Her tummy would make loud noises in the night, crying for food, and she would hug herself to sleep. To survive, Adanna started doing small jobs in the village. She would go to people's farms, bend over all day, pulling out weeds or helping them harvest cassava. Her hands got blisters. Her feet ached, but she kept working. Sometimes she would help fetch water from the stream for old women. The buckets were heavy, and the path was slippery, but Adanna never said no. She smiled through the pain. When they paid her, she would hold the small money tightly and walk straight to the market to buy food. Just a little rice, or beans, or tiny dry fish. She always counted every coin before handing it over to the seller. Some kind villagers felt sorry for her. "Poor girl," they would whisper. "Life can change so quickly. She used to be Mama Rappa's daughter. Now look at her." Many of them gave her foodstuffs. Gari, yam, palm oil. Some gave her coins. Adanna would kneel and say, "Thank you, Ma. Thank you, sir." Even though her life had become hard, she never stopped being respectful. But then, one hot afternoon something worse happened. The sun was high in the sky. It was so hot that the sand on the ground could burn your feet. Adanna was just coming back from the stream, when she saw two men standing in front of her house. They wore shirts with the bank's name on them. One of them held a paper. When Adanna reached the house, the taller man looked at her and said, "Are you Adanna?" She nodded slowly, fear creeping into her heart. "Your mother took a loan from our bank before she died," he said. "She didn't pay it back. Now the bank has decided to sell this house and everything inside it." Adanna's heart dropped. Her chest felt like someone had placed a heavy stone on it. She looked at the man and begged, "Please, sir, this is my home. I have nowhere else to go. Please give me time." The man shook his head. "It's not up to me. This is bank property now." Adanna fell to her knees. She cried. She pleaded. She held the man's leg. "Please, sir, please." But they did not listen. That day, Adanna was chased out of her house. Her house, the only place she ever called home. She picked up her small bag of clothes, just a few wrappers, an old dress, and her mother's wrapper folded neatly at the bottom, and walked away crying. She walked through the village with her head low, tears rolling down her cheeks. Some people watched from their doorways, too shocked to speak. When she got to a big mango tree in the middle of the village, she dropped her bag and sat under it. The tree gave her shade, but her heart was burning with sadness. She sat there for a long time thinking. Where would she go? Who would help her? Then, like a small light in the darkness, she remembered someone. Auntie Neka. Her mother's only sister. She hadn't seen Auntie Neka in a long time. In fact, Auntie Neka did not even come for her mother's burial. They had quarreled years ago and never made peace. Adanna knew her auntie didn't like her much, but she was the only family Adanna had left. "I will go to Annika village," Adanna whispered to herself. "Auntie Neka lives there with her daughter, Chinaza. I don't know if they'll take me in, but I have no choice." So, with swollen eyes and tired legs, Adanna picked up her small bag, stood up slowly, and began the long journey to Annika village. Her feet hurt with every step, but she kept walking. The road was far, dusty, and lonely. The trees whispered above her head. The birds chirped sadly, as if they knew she had lost everything. But still she walked on, alone. When Adanna got to Annika village that evening, the sky was already turning orange. The sun was slowly going to sleep, and the trees cast long shadows on the road. She was tired. Her feet were dusty, her legs were sore, and her tummy had been rumbling since morning. She saw a woman returning from the market, carrying a basket full of vegetables on her head. Adanna greeted her politely and asked, "Please, Ma, can you show me the way to Auntie Neka's house?" The woman looked at her closely, nodded and pointed. Follow that narrow path over there, the one beside the big tree with the bird's nest. Walk straight, and you'll see a mud house with a wooden bench in front. That's her compound. Adanna thanked her and continued walking. When she got to the compound, her heart started beating fast. She saw Auntie Neka sitting in front of her hut. She was washing plates. Lots of them, all stained with red oil and soup. The plates smelled of egusi and bitter leaf. Adanna guessed she must have just come back from selling food at the popular Onika market. Adanna walked slowly into the compound, her legs shaking. She greeted, "Good evening, Auntie." But Auntie Neka didn't smile. She didn't even look surprised. She answered in a cold, harsh voice, "What are you doing here?" Adanna swallowed hard, her throat dry. She looked at the ground and said softly, "I was chased out of the house by bank people. I have nowhere else to go." Without even waiting, Auntie Neka dropped the spoon she was scrubbing and raised her voice. "Does my house look like a refugee camp to you?" she barked. "Go and meet your dead mother in her grave." Adanna's eyes filled with tears. She quickly dropped her bag and fell on her knees. "Please, Auntie. I have nowhere else to go. Please let me stay." Auntie Neka looked at her with disgust. Her lips twisted like she had seen something sour. She hissed and said, "Fine. You can stay. But you must do all the housework. Wash, clean, sweep, cook, everything. I'm not running a free lodge here." Adanna nodded quickly. "Yes, Auntie. I will do everything." She pointed to the small house and snapped, "Take your bag inside." Adanna stood up slowly and walked inside. The room smelled like old oil and wood smoke. It was dark, with just a small window and a tiny lantern on the floor. That night, when it was time to eat, Auntie Neka served the food. She gave herself a big plate of jollof rice with fried plantain and meat. Chinaza also got a big portion, her spoon dancing happily on her plate. But for Adanna, she brought a very tiny portion of plain rice with no meat, no fish. Adanna said nothing. She simply took the plate, whispered "thank you," and ate slowly. Her stomach was still hungry after she finished, but she didn't complain. She had learned to be grateful for whatever came her way. After they ate, Auntie Neka stood and said, "Listen well. This house has only 2 beds. One for me and one for my daughter. You will sleep on that old mat over there." She pointed to a thin mat near the corner of the room. Adanna looked at the mat and smiled weakly. It was old and dusty, but to her, it was better than sleeping under the mango tree. She replied, "Yes, Auntie. Thank you." She laid the mat carefully, placed her bag as a pillow and lay down. The mat scratched her back. The floor beneath was cold and hard. But she closed her eyes, pulled her mother's wrapper over her body, and whispered softly, "Thank you, Mama. I have a roof over my head." That night, as the wind whistled softly outside and a cricket sang in the corner of the room, Adanna slept. Not peacefully but thankfully. She didn't know what the next day would bring. But she was ready. Very early the next morning, before the sun had even yawned awake, Adanna heard her name. "Adanna! Adanna! Wake up. Come to the kitchen." It was Auntie Neka's sharp voice. Adanna opened her eyes quickly and jumped up from the cold mat. Her back hurt a little, but she didn't complain. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and hurried to the kitchen. It was still dark outside. Even the cock had not crowed yet. The wind was cold and made her wrapper flap like a small flag. Inside the kitchen, the firewood had already been arranged. Smoke danced in the air like tiny ghosts. Auntie Neka stood by the pot, looking angry as usual. "Help me cook the food I will sell at the market today," she said. "Be fast, don't waste my time." Adanna nodded quickly. Her hands moved fast, cutting vegetables, peeling yams, pounding pepper, stirring the pot. All this time, Chinaza was still snoring loudly on the bed, wrapped in a warm blanket like a queen in her palace. After they finished cooking, Auntie Neka said, "Now wash all the pots. I want them to shine like new." Adanna carried all the pots and scrubbed until her fingers hurt. Then she washed the plates. Then she swept the rooms and the entire compound. Her stomach made a loud rumbling sound. She was hungry. When it was time for breakfast, Auntie Neka gave Adanna the burnt bottom part of the food from the pot. It was hard and bitter, but Adanna said thank you and ate it slowly. Chinaza, on the other hand, was given a big plate of soft, delicious rice and stew with meat. She smiled happily as she ate, licking her fingers. Before leaving for the market, Auntie Neka pointed at Adanna and said, "Listen carefully. Wash everyone's dirty clothes. Fetch water from the stream and fill every water pot in this house. Go to the bush and bring firewood. Then cook dinner. Do not eat anything until I return. You hear me?" Adanna nodded. Then Auntie Neka turned to her daughter and said sweetly, "My princess, eat whenever you're hungry. Don't stress yourself." After she left, Adanna began her chores. She filled a big basin with dirty clothes and she washed and washed. Her fingers got wrinkled and her back started to ache. As she was washing, Chinaza stood near her, smirking. "Make sure you wash those clothes well, poor little maid," she said with a wicked smile. Adanna stayed quiet. When she finished washing the clothes, she went to fetch firewood. The sun was now hot and her legs were tired. She carried a big bundle on her head and came back sweating. As she tried to rest a little, Chinaza laughed again. "You're not even done yet. Go and start cooking before my mother returns. If the food is not sweet, you will get the beating of your life." Tears rolled down Adanna's cheeks. She missed her mother. Oh, how she wished her mama could hold her again, sing to her, cook for her, protect her. But mama was gone. And now she was all alone. She quickly wiped her tears and kept working. She knew if she didn't finish everything perfectly, Auntie Neka would beat her again. Just a few days ago, she had mistakenly dropped a clay water pot. It slipped from her hands and shattered into pieces. Auntie Neka was so angry. She screamed, "Can your dead mother afford this pot, you ungrateful girl?" She beat Adanna with a cane until her legs were full of red marks. Then she didn't give her food for 2 whole days. Adanna cried herself to sleep each night. Her tummy would make loud noises, but there was nothing to eat. Sometimes she would look at Chinaza eating meat and jollof rice and beg, "Please, can I just have a spoon?" But Chinaza would laugh. "You groke. You beg too much. Get away." Adanna would go back to her mat with tears in her eyes. Auntie Neka never bought her clothes, not even a scarf. But she always bought new dresses, shoes, and hair ribbons for Chinaza. She would clap her hands and say, "My beautiful princess deserves the best. Only the finest for my daughter." Chinaza would spin around in her new dresses and laugh proudly. She never lifted a finger to do any work. She couldn't even boil water. Auntie Neka spoiled her so much that she became lazy and proud. When visitors came, she would say things like, "I don't wash. That's for poor people. I'm a queen." But Adanna didn't talk much. She just worked quietly, with sadness in her heart and memories of her mother always close by. Even when her hands were tired, even when her feet were sore, even when her heart ached, she kept going. 'Cause she had no one else. Because this was now her life. But deep inside her, a little voice whispered, "One day, things will change." One hot afternoon, as the sun stood high in the sky like a glowing ball of fire, Auntie Neka called Adanna and said, "Before I go to the market today, make sure you turn that bunch of palm nuts into palm oil. I want to see fresh oil when I come back." Adanna nodded quickly. "Yes, Ma." The palm nuts had been sitting in a corner for days. It was hard work to make palm oil. First, Adanna had to boil the nuts in a big black pot over a fire. Then she poured them into a mortar and pounded them gently until the skin came off. After that, she added warm water and squeezed until the juice came out red and thick. Her small arms ached, but she didn't stop. She wanted to do it well so Auntie Neka wouldn't get angry. As she poured the oily juice into a bowl, a little spilled on the ground. Just a tiny bit. Suddenly, Chinaza walked in, arms folded, nose turned up. "What did you just do?" she barked. Adanna turned around, her hands sticky with oil. It's just a little that spilled. I didn't mean to. Chinaza gasped loudly like someone had shouted in her ear. Just a little. Do you know how much this oil costs? I'm telling my mummy. You want to pour away all her oil en? Adanna's heart sank. Please don't lie. It was just a little. But Chinaza had already stormed off, eyes shining with wicked joy. That night, Adanna finished her chores and lay down on her mat. Her body was tired. Her eyes slowly closed as she hugged herself under the cold night air. The sounds of crickets filled the room. Suddenly, splash. Cold water covered her from head to toe. Adanna jumped up, shaking, coughing, her wrapper soaked. Her teeth chattered. Auntie Neka stood over her, eyes burning like fire. You useless girl, she screamed. So you want to waste all my palm oil, ABI? Do you know how much I suffered to harvest those nuts? You are a wicked child. Just like your mother. Adanna was still shivering, confused, trying to explain. It was not much, I swear, just a small spill. Shut your mouth, Auntie Neka shouted. Get out of my house this minute. Adanna's eyes widened in shock. Out. But it's night, please. But Auntie Neka was not listening. She pushed her out with her wet wrapper still dripping. Chinaza stood at the door, smiling proudly. Adanna stepped into the darkness. The night was cold. The wind whispered through the trees. A dog barked far away. She sat on the ground outside the house, curled into herself like a baby in the womb, and cried. The ground was hard, the air was wet, but she had nowhere to go. Tears poured down her cheeks as she whispered, Mama, I miss you. That night she didn't sleep much. She kept hearing Auntie Neka's angry voice in her head. Her chest hurt. But deep inside her heart something said, Hold on, Adanna. Hold on. The next morning, people in Onika village began to talk. Did you hear what that woman did to that poor girl? One woman told another at the stream. Yes, so, another replied. I saw Adanna sleeping outside last night. Soaked like a fish. That Neka is heartless. Even the old village tailor shook his head. That girl is so hard-working. I see her every morning, sweeping, fetching water, going up and down. That woman doesn't have mercy. A group of women whispered at the market. Do you know her husband ran away years ago? People say it's because she's too wicked. And her daughter, Chinaza, lazy and full of pride. She doesn't even know how to boil water. Let's see which man will marry that one. The news spread like wildfire. People started to pity Adanna. But inside that wicked house, nothing changed. Adanna still worked all day. She swept the compound, washed the plates, fetched water, cooked food, cleaned the rooms and more. She did it all with her small, tired hands. But no matter how tired she was, Adanna stayed hopeful. She would sing quietly when working. She sang the songs her mother used to teach her. Songs about love. Songs about joy. Songs about hope. Sometimes she would close her eyes and imagine Mama dancing and clapping beside her. She would smile warmly, remembering Mama's soft voice, her warm hugs, her gentle hands. Other times tears would roll down her face and she would whisper, Mama, if only you were here. Everything would be okay. But Adanna didn't stop singing. She didn't stop hoping. She didn't stop dreaming. She still believed that one day, somehow her life would become beautiful again. The Ofala festival was a very big festival in Onika village. Everybody looked forward to it every year. The village was always full of music, dancing and happy faces. Even people who had traveled to far places, even to cities and other countries, would return home just to celebrate. This year's Ofala was extra special. The prince was going to pick a wife from the maidens of the village. All the girls were excited. Mothers were busy buying new wrappers, beads, oils, and perfumes for their daughters. The girls were learning how to dance and shake their waists. They practiced every day in the village square. They smiled, danced in circles, and tried to look their very best, hoping the prince would notice them. Auntie Neka also wanted her daughter Chinaza to be chosen. She spent so much money buying the best native skincare for her. She rubbed her skin with oils every morning and evening. She even made a special soap from herbs to make Chinaza's skin glow. She bought shiny wrappers with gold designs and big red coral beads. She taught her daughter how to dance, how to walk like a queen, and how to smile gently. Every day she told Chinaza, "Shake your waist very well. Make sure the prince sees you. You must be the next queen." They would sit and talk for hours, dreaming of how Chinaza would become queen. Auntie Neka would say, "I will be the mother of a queen. People will bow to me. You will ride a horse. You will wear the crown." But Adanna was not part of all these preparations. Auntie Neka said to her, "You, a maid, do you think a prince will ever look at someone like you? Go and wash the plates." Adanna felt so bad. Her heart broke a little every time she watched the other girls dance. She would peep from the window and see them laughing, their wrappers flying in the wind, their beads jingling. She wished she could join them. She wished her mother was still alive to make her beautiful too. But all she could do was cry quietly at night. One evening when the sun had gone down and the sky was turning dark, Auntie Neka came back from the market, sweating and angry. "Adanna," she shouted, "go to the river and fill the last water pot. We must have enough water for tomorrow." Adanna came out and said gently, "Auntie, we still have water in the house. Let me go in the morning, please. It's getting late. The river will be lonely." "Are you talking back at me?" Auntie Neka screamed. "Did I ask for your opinion? Before I count to 3, carry the pot and leave this house." Adanna quickly picked up the water pot, her hands shaking. She didn't want to be beaten. As she walked to the river, the sky became darker. The wind blew her wrapper. Path was lonely. She met 2 women coming back and they asked, "Child, why are you going to the river at this time?" She looked down and said, "If I don't go, my auntie will beat me." She walked on, her bare feet touching the cold earth. She began to sing softly, her voice trembling with sadness. It was the song her mother used to sing when they worked together. The more she sang, the more she cried. When she reached the river, she filled the pot carefully. The moon was rising slowly. Just as she was about to carry the pot, something happened. The water began to shake. A soft, glowing light rose from the middle of the river. Adanna dropped the pot in fear and stepped back. Then, right before her eyes, a beautiful woman came out of the water. Her hair was long and shiny. Her skin sparkled like gold. She was a mermaid. Her long, shiny tail shimmered like silver under the moonlight. Adanna screamed and fell on her knees. "Please don't hurt me. I didn't do anything wrong. Please don't kill me," she cried. The mermaid smiled gently. Her voice was soft like a lullaby. "Do not be afraid, my child. I will not hurt you. I came to wipe away your tears." Adanna slowly looked up, still shaking. Who are you?" she asked. "I am a mermaid," the woman said. "I have seen your pain. I've seen your hard work. I've seen how you are treated. Your heart is pure." She stretched out her hand. 2 big wooden boxes appeared from the water. One box was shiny, new, and beautiful. The other was old, dirty, and broken. "Pick one," the water spirit said. "Only one." Adanna looked at both boxes. The shiny box looked like it was full of treasures. But something in her heart told her not to choose it. She closed her eyes and said, "I will take the old one." The water spirit smiled even wider. She gave her the old box and said, "Do not open it until the 7th day. No matter what happens, do not open it early." Adanna nodded. "I will wait. I promise." Then the woman disappeared into the river, and the light faded away. Adanna picked her water pot and the wooden box. Her heart was still beating fast, but she felt something warm and good inside. She rushed home quietly, opened the back door, and hid the box under Auntie Neka's bed, because no one checks under the bed. And so the days began to count. Day 1. She kept working hard, doing all the chores. Chinaza kept laughing at her. Auntie Neka kept treating her badly. But Adanna had a secret. A special and mysterious gift hidden somewhere in the house. A gift from the river. A gift that could change everything. It was the Ofala festival day, and the whole village buzzed with excitement. Everywhere you looked, people were busy cooking special meals in their homes, filling the air with delicious smells. The maidens were the brightest stars of the day. They wore beautiful, colorful dresses decorated with beads and sparkling jewels. Their faces shone with joy as they giggled and chatted, waiting for the contest to start. Auntie Neka, with a proud smile, made sure Chinaza looked like a true princess. She brushed her hair carefully, tied her beads just right, and gave her the finest clothes to wear. But for Adanna, things were very different. Of all the food that day, Auntie Neka only served her a tiny little portion. Before leaving for the village square, Auntie Neka warned Adanna, "Make sure every chore is done before we return. And remember, you must not come to the village square." Adanna's heart sank. She wanted so much to join the festival and see the contest. But she nodded quietly, understanding she had no choice. What made her even more anxious was the mystery box. It was the 7th day since she was told she could open it. She had waited all day to get to it. Hurrying through her chores, she swept the floor, washed the dishes, and tidied the small house with all her might. When she finished, she ran inside and locked the door tight. The quiet house felt very still. She looked around to be sure no one could see her. Then she carefully opened the mysterious box. Inside, her breath caught in her throat. The box was filled with wonders. Beautiful clothes woven with shiny threads, bright beads that glittered like stars, stacks of money in many different colors and shapes, a shining mirror with a smooth glass surface, a sparkling neckpiece, and little bottles of perfume that smelled like fresh flowers. And there was a small note. It said, "Speak to the mirror whenever you need anything." Adanna's eyes widened. She felt scared, excited, and amazed all at once. Slowly, she took out one of the beautiful dresses and put it on. The beads she wrapped around her neck and wrists. When she looked into the mirror, she saw not just herself but someone who looked like a princess. Soft, bright, and glowing with beauty. For a moment, she forgot everything and smiled. Quietly, Adanna slipped out of the house and made her way toward the village square. The air was filled with the sound of drums and laughter. The maidens were already dancing, twirling in their dresses, hoping to catch the prince's eye. But the prince didn't seem to notice any of them. His face was serious, searching. Adanna hid behind a tree and peeked through the leaves. Her heart beat fast. Suddenly, the prince's eyes locked on her. He stood up, his voice loud and clear. "That is my wife. I have found her." Everyone stopped and stared. Adanna gasped and ran as fast as her feet could carry her. The guards shouted and chased after her. She ran home, heart pounding. Inside, she slammed the door and locked it tight. Quickly, she took off the beautiful clothes and beads so Auntie Neka wouldn't know she had been at the festival. That night, the village buzzed with talk, but no one knew it was Adanna the prince had chosen. Auntie Neka and Chinaza were angry and confused. Chinaza's eyes were full of tears. "Is the prince blind?" she cried. "Did he not see how beautiful I looked? After all my hard work." Auntie Neka tried to comfort her daughter. Who could this mysterious girl be? She wondered aloud. Adanna stayed silent, hiding her secret deep inside. But she knew she could not hide the box any longer. The next morning she showed Auntie Neka everything. The clothes, beads, money, and the perfumes except the mirror and the note. Auntie Neka's eyes grew wide in surprise. Without a word, she took all the money and clothes from the box. To Adanna, she gave only a small pile of money, and a few clothes. Then she handed the most beautiful clothes, the biggest pile of money, and the perfumes to Chinaza. "My daughter must also go to the stream and get her own box," Auntie Neka said, her voice sharp. "It will be bigger than this." Chinaza smiled eagerly. "Yes, Mama. Mine will be bigger." That night, while everyone else slept, Adanna lay awake, her mind restless. She felt the heaviness of unfairness pressing down on her chest. She had hoped the magic of the box would change everything for her, but Auntie Neka had taken most of it away. The next morning, the village was quiet but full of whispers. The prince had sent his guards back to Adanna's house. Auntie Neka was getting ready to go to the market when the guards arrived. Her heart jumped with joy. She thought they had come for Chinaza. But the guards greeted her politely and said they had come for the lady the prince had seen at the Ofala festival, the one who ran into the compound. Neka smiled and said, "I only have one daughter," then called Chinaza out. Chinaza stepped outside, glowing with hope. But the guards shook their heads. "She is not the one," they said. Auntie Neka frowned. "There is no other maiden here," she insisted. But inside the house, Adanna was quietly doing chores. When the guards left, Auntie Neka called Adanna out and asked, "Has the prince ever seen you before?" Adanna shook her head quickly. "No, Auntie." But the prince was sure she lived there. So the next day he sent the guards again. This time, the guards found Adanna cooking near the fireplace. She froze when she saw them. "The prince wants you at the palace," they told her. But Adanna's voice was trembling as she said, "No, please. Auntie will be angry if she finds out." The guards left and told the prince what happened. The prince's eyes burned with determination. "I will visit her myself," he said. On the following day, Auntie Neka was sitting under the big mango tree, carefully braiding Chinaza's hair. The warm sun filtered through the leaves, making patterns on the ground. Suddenly the prince arrived. Everyone stood up and smiled, but their happiness faded when the prince said, "I have come for Adanna." Auntie Neka quickly replied, "Adanna is at the farm, fetching firewood." The prince nodded. "Tell her I have chosen her to be my queen. I will come back in 2 market days to see her." When Adanna returned from the farm, her hands carrying sticks of firewood, Auntie Neka asked sharply, "How did the prince see you?" Adanna lowered her eyes and quietly confessed, "I went to the village square for the Ofala festival." Fury flashed in Auntie Neka's eyes. She grabbed Adanna and beat her hard, shouting, "Over my dead body will that dirty, ugly maid marry the prince?" Adanna's tears flowed like rivers down her cheeks. She cried silently, her heart breaking. That day, she was also denied food, left hungry and hurt. As the sun dipped low that evening, Auntie Neka's voice rang out, "Chinaza, go to the river now. It is time you get your own box from the mermaid." The villagers were shocked to see Chinaza walking toward the river at such an odd hour. Her mother never allowed her near the water, especially not so late. By the riverbank, the moonlight danced on the ripples. Chinaza didn't even fill her pot. She just sat quietly, waiting. Then from the water, the mermaid rose slowly, her hair flowing like silver waves, her eyes deep and mysterious. Chinaza did not blink or turn away. "I want my own box," she said boldly. The mermaid smiled softly and brought out 2 boxes, one old and rough, the other shiny and new. Without a second thought, Chinaza grabbed the shiny and new box. The mermaid's voice was calm but firm. "Do not open this box until the 7th day." Chinaza nodded quickly and ran home, excitement bubbling inside her. When she got home, Auntie Neka was all smiles. But Chinaza told her, "The mermaid said we must wait 7 days to open the box." Auntie Neka frowned. 7 days? That is too long. We cannot wait that long to see riches and beautiful things. She turned to Adanna and snapped, "You go outside now. Stay there until we call you." Adanna stepped outside quietly, her heart heavy. The doors and windows were closed tight. Rags stuffed the little openings, blocking even a sliver of light or air. Inside, the air was thick with greed and anticipation. Auntie Neka whispered, "I can't wait to see all the money." When they finally opened Chinaza's box, screams filled the house. Instead of gold and jewels, wild creatures spilled out. Snakes slithered across the floor, lions roared, tigers growled, and a fierce alligator snapped its jaws. The animals frightened them. They screamed for help, but trapped inside the sealed house, no one could get in quickly to help them. The wild animals were too strong. They attacked and killed Auntie Neka, Chinaza. Outside, Adanna heard the terrible noises but could do nothing. Though they treated her cruelly, she felt deep sorrow in her heart. She mourned for them for many days, tears falling like gentle rain. After the village buried them, the prince came to Adanna's house once more. With a kind smile he spoke, "Adanna, will you be my queen?" Adanna's heart leaped. She nodded, tears of joy and relief shining in her eyes. In just a few days, the whole village celebrated the wedding. Adanna became queen of Onika village, loved by many. From that day on, she ruled with kindness, wisdom, and courage. The village thrived under her gentle care, and the story of the brave, kind maiden was told for generations to come.